Hey, what up, sluts? This is Taylor. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the Second Amendment in the United States Constitution, and it's about guns and bearing arms and militias and whatnot, and most people really don't understand what it is, and I want to make it very clear that I am fine with people in this day and age, in our current context, owning weapons, so don't think I'm saying anything against that. I understand that the time where this topic is brought up the most is on Painkiller already. I've been on there a few times where they brought up guns, and I really try to steer clear of it because I am probably the most gun-averse person of that group of Woody, Kyle, and Wings, and so the way I see it, you have to look at it in context, all right? You have to look at it in the way it was written because this document, the Constitution, isn't some infallible tome that's being handed down in its perfection, from generation to generation. That's not the way it's supposed to be. There's a reason that Thomas Jefferson says that the Constitution should be redone every so often to make sure that it's applicable to the current context of the United States and it's, keeping up with the subtleties of how society changes and whatnot and so on. And so to pretend that this is some, perfect document is pretty ridiculous and it's unrealistic. Now, if you read what the text actually says, it's not about giving people the right to bear arms and to keep guns. That's kind of just a consequence of the initial reason they put that in there. The reason that they want people to be able to have guns is so they can have a well-formed militia. And the reason for that is obvious because they realize the potential for a rebellion or a revolt, and they wanted the people to be able to have the best angle and the best ability to attack and force their way into the government and change it as they saw fit at any juncture. And so that's what you have to be taken as kind of the starting block here, right? Now, since then, technology has exploded, and now people still like to misconstrue this entire amendment and pretend like it is just some, mystifying, ridiculous wizard spell that's like, you may own any weapon, and then sprinkle this fairy dust on top, and it's like, oh, awesome. So now people are owning fully automatic, semi-automatic, pistols that can hold 50 rounds, and ridiculous shotguns, and, explosives, and incredibly, incredibly dangerous things that have the potential to kill themselves and people around them. Not saying that the vast majority of gun owners are like that, but I'm saying the potential is there. And, of course, the Constitution didn't think about this. They weren't thinking, hey, we need to make sure that we write this specially and say they cannot have, fully automatic firearms in their at their disposal as a citizen. No, they weren't thinking that because they didn't know that was to come. Back then, the government and the people all were using pretty much the same weapons. They were muzzle-loader pieces of shit that couldn't hit the side of a barn from 100 yards. They were not effective killing machines. This was still when they were doing Revolutionary War shit, and they were standing on different sides of battles, pretending like it was the Middle Ages, having huge Army v. Army battles just with modern technology, almost like shitty bows and arrows, but, more effective than that. So you have to realize the context that we're in. Now, so to take that out of context and pretend that it applies to all these Glocks and all these assault rifles and these ridiculous sniper rifles and just fully automatic shotguns or semi-automatic high capacity, slug shotguns, that's just silliness. That's pretty ridiculous. And for me, I can say that it makes me nervous to think that my neighbor could have a weapon like that, and if he ever got really drunk one night or decided that he was going to be the big man on campus and he wanted to come over and kill me because maybe I scratched his car or we got in a fight or something, he could do that. He could go downstairs, grab his shotgun, then come and kill me, and that's not that's not in my best interest, obviously, because I end up dead at the end of that equation. So I'm saying that at this point, the U.S. is in too deep. Too many people already have weapons to use and abuse, and if you did make laws about weapons, you honestly would just be taking them out of the hands of law-abiding citizens because criminals aren't going to turn in their guns at the local gun turn-in store, whatever the hell they would do. So I'm on the pro-gun side in that regard. I realize that it's not as simple as just saying, well, let's stop, cold turkey selling guns. But, maybe we should start tuning back the kinds of guns we're selling to people because there is no reason at all, aside from maybe you can say, oh, fun, that because someone has a hobby for shooting guns, and that's fine. Let them go hog wild. But I think that maybe you should just be able to rent those from somewhere and go and use it there because there's no reason to have these incredibly high, powerful, just weapons of incredible potential to devastate people and families and communities in the hands of someone who you don't know. I mean, it's pretty easy to get guns here. They could be a raging alcoholic. They could become a drug addict after they get their weapons. They could go on a huge revenge spree and kill everyone that's wronged them in the past, like a really cool movie or something like that. So, in addition, the same people who say, it's my right to have a fully automatic shotgun. It's in the Constitution. Those same people aren't going to say it's my right to have an Abrams M1 tank or whatever the hell, or to have a nuclear silo in my backyard, because that's ridiculous. People realize immediately the idiocy of that sentiment. But it's kind of funny, because is this line drawn? Because I could make the case that, hey, realistically, the whole point of that amendment is to give me the ability to fight back as a militia, and I cannot compete in the world of modern diplomacy and military battles and whatnot unless I have a nuclear silo and I have a nuke that I can use to, demonstrate justice the way I see it, if need be, in a militia form. I can make that case, and according to the Constitution, they just say bear arms. They didn't know. Arms was just the only term you needed. They didn't need to say, oh, but you can't have missiles, and you can't have launchers, and you can't have tanks, and you can't have submachine guns or assault rifles. Like, they didn't need to say that. Arms just meant arms, At that time, it was probably equally applicable to just shitty little bows and arrows and whatnot, or maybe a cudgel, I don't know. But I'm rambling at this point, and I just wanted to stress this, that I'm not against people's ability to own or use a gun. I'm just saying that, Jesus Christ, at least be honest with yourself if you do own these guns, and realize that what you're doing is you're manipulating the Constitution to mean something that it never intended. So that's what I'm saying. There is no solution to it at this point for the United States, because too many people have guns. It's just too many. There's no way. It's unrealistic. I think those people should be able to keep their guns because, as I've said, they're law-abiding citizens for the most part, and there's no reason to assume guilt on their part. But that's all I have to say about it. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any comments about this, leave them in the, obviously, comment section below. And that's it. And I love you.